Hello everyone and welcome back along to the channel where we're having a look at the biggest rugby game in club rugby so far. It is the Super Rugby final. This is the big one we've all been waiting for. It's a big one we've all been building towards. Of course, we had semi-finals last week. Fortunately, due to unforeseen circumstances, we couldn't bring you a little review like this, which is a bit of a shame, but we've got special guests once again. Of course, we don't have the Scottish Canon this time because Australia aren't anywhere to be seen. We can laugh about them. No, in complete honesty, he's been completely flat out. So we're going to soldier on, but we still have our special guest from the glory lands of South Africa. Brett, thanks for joining me once again. How are you going this week?
I'm very well, thanks. Thanks for having me again on the channel, man.
And you'll be pretty happy that you've actually got a representative side in the grand final this weekend as well, I'd imagine.
Oh, extremely happy. I think the Lions have been our only hope, and when they got through last week, it was kind of like a relief that we actually had someone in the final for once.
So we're going to have a look at the big one, the grand final this weekend. Of course, if you've been living under a rock, it is the Hurricanes at home, Westpac Stadium. They'll be up against the Lions, and they've got a big travel to do this week. They've got a lot of, recuperation, all that sort of jazz that you call it. But before we get into that, since we didn't cover the semi-finals last week, we might as well have a look at them quickly. First off, of course, the two matches that took place were the Hurricanes at home. They were against the Chiefs. The score there was 25 points to 9. It was kind of a sad sight to watch that match, I think. When I was watching it, the Chiefs did look a bit down. They looked a bit out. They just looked like they were missing that energy. They played their last game. They were a bit completely out of the match. The Hurricanes, though, on the other hand, missing players, still looked their very best, I think. They looked like worthy of being in the final. How did you see that game going?
I think, obviously, I was I'll admit I was supporting the Chiefs in that game just because so the Lions could get that home final advantage. It was a good game from a neutral standpoint. Obviously, The most significant thing, I think, was Beauden Barrett in that game. I think he definitely proved that he was the best 10 in the world. And he pretty much just took over in the first half. He pretty much just took over the game all by himself. Obviously, he's got TJ Pirinara feeding him the ball from the ruck, and he's got quality players. And, the Hurricanes just had a really good game, and Barrett just, in particular, impressed me the most.
Yeah, the Chiefs they looked like a shadow of their former self. I mean, the key players they've had, like Cruden, didn't really play that well. McKenzie wasn't really a factor in that match at all, and they just got swept aside. It was pretty easy for the Hurricanes to make their way into the final. Of course, the second semi-final was the team from South Africa, the Lions, the Golden Hope from the Golden Lions, and they were up against the Highlanders. Now, this game, I think it was a bit like the Hurricanes game. The Highlanders were completely just whitewashed off the park right from the start. The Lions scored some amazing tries, just ridiculous tries. They were in sublime form. And I think when you look at it leading into the final, it's easily the two best teams that are there in the grand final. It's hard to argue in those semi-finals when you had the top two sides versus the top two wildcard sides, you could say. It was no match. Like, the Chiefs got blown away. The Highlanders, they come back late, but they were really, in the end, the Lions knew they had that game wrapped up. What did you think of that Lions performance?
I think the Lions demonstrated what they've been doing all season. They proved that they're strong starters, and they definitely showed that just straight off the blocks, just that dominance, that in the breakdown, turning over balls and then springing out wide. And they've shown that they love to spread around the ball, and they look like they're having fun while they're doing it. And that's exactly what they showed here. I mean, the combination, 9-10 combination between Faf de Klerk and Elton Jantjies is just blowing me away right now. Just the chemistry between those two, and in both offense and defense right now, those two are definitely, in my opinion, the form 9-10 combination in the competition. And you've got Ruan Combrink as well, and there's not much you can say. You can't really talk much about the Highlanders in that game because it was going to be the Lions from the onset, to be honest.
Yeah, there's a lot of travel involved in both of those two teams that lost their game. There's something we're probably going to talk about later in the final as well. But, I mean, the Chiefs went to South Africa and played the Stormers and then come back again, and then they got blown away off the park by the Canes. And then the Highlanders, they were going all the way over there. They've had a lot of away match travels as well at the end of the season. And you compare it to last year, I was looking at this, the Highlanders only went to Australia in the whole final series last year. They played the Waratahs, I'm pretty sure it was, which they knocked out. Other than that, they were at home, and they never went any further than 1 week in Australia. So I think that gives a bit of an indication, the difference when you're going to South Africa than when you're going to just Australia or something as well, which makes a big difference. And leading into that, how much do you think the Lions are regretting that match against the Jaguars now?
I think I've been definitely thinking about it this whole week, and history has shown I think the stat was only 3 teams have won away in Super Rugby finals, and obviously in the grand finals in Super Rugby history, and it's our, I think, 21st season this season, and so that's a pretty big stat when I saw that. And I think I called it a couple of weeks ago that I think they would be regretting that decision. I think a final in Joburg would be a lot better than a final in Wellington for them.
For the Lions, it would be massive difference, to be playing in South Africa at home. Their home crowd, I know we saw how good their home crowd was last weekend as well when they were playing the Highlanders. They're just massive support over there for them. And I think, right now, if you're going to call it, you'd say if it was in South Africa, the Lions would be my massive favourites. If it's in New Zealand, I think the Hurricanes are my massive favourites. So straight away, there's a big difference. But we'll getting on to the final, though. That's what we're all here for. That's what we're leading towards. The big one, 2 teams that haven't won the competition before. That's pretty impressive to have 2 teams that, no matter what way it goes, is going to be a debut winner. So that's going to be great from the start. But the Lions, you look at the history, the story that they're bringing, and the form that they're bringing. This is just a huge occasion for the team. It's like to come all this way. Like, what do you think? That has for them coming to this final, knowing where they've come from, how's that going to affect them?
I think it's very special for not only the Lions but South Africa in general. It's been a while since South Africa got a side into the final. I think 2012 was the last time, and obviously my Sharks got hammered by the Chiefs in that final. Watch the bad memories away. But it's definitely special for the Lions, and you could see that when they got through, just the emotion that they were showing, or all the players and the coaching staff were showing when they obviously got past the Highlanders last week. And I think that's both a positive and a negative for them. The positive being, they have that passion, they have that emotion that you need to win a final, and they are looking like a championship team at this point. It's also bad because they can lose focus, because you can see the Canes are a smooth unit right now. You can see how determined and focused they are, and the Lions could lose some focus here and there.
Yeah, that's true. It's probably easily the 2 best teams in the competition. You speak about the players, the key players for the Lions. I mean, you've spoken about some already, but you could just about name their whole starting 15 and say that they're all really key players, because everyone seems to perform at such a high level there. There always seems to be a handful of players that perform for the side, given whatever match they're in. But, you spoke about Faf and Yancey's, the 9-10 combination. That's just huge straight away. But the forwards, I mean, Creel, Whiteley, even Tecklenburg, I mean, their back row is amazing, and it just keeps performing as well. Even when they had Ackerman come in last weekend, it's just seamless, just carried straight on through. Mapu in the centres has been, I think, just such a key link between their halves and their outside backs as well. And then you speak about Combrink and that as well. Just fantastic finishes. And I really enjoy watching Skozan. He is lightning. He's so quick and so elusive. To me, that's the key players. Is there anyone else you'd add to that, or think it's going to be a big contributor to the final?
I think especially in the last 2 matches, the quarterfinal and the semi-final, a guy that's gone untalked about is the young Rowan Janssen van Rensburg. He's a 20-year-old centre, and he's a big unit, and he has a lot of power, but also a lot of pace, and he scored some really good tries in the last couple of weeks, and he's just devastating on offense.
Yeah, he's been one that's really stood up. He's been storming almost into like Springboks contention. A lot of people are talking about as well, which is massive, just to storm right into that. And he just adds to that, along with Mapu and then the outside backs as well. Just such a good team, and it's just hard to pick a weak area, especially when the scrum performed so well against the Highlanders last weekend as well, which is a bit of a, not really a surprise, but it's not probably the first place that you'd say the Lions are going to beat a team. But you really saw how they kind of tactically approached that match with dominating that forward pack, and then it just all clicked into play straight after that. The one thing I would probably pick a weakness in the Lions, though, is the attitude that they've coming into this final with. Now, I'm not saying it's bad here. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. They're not coming in being dickheads about it or anything like that. I'm not saying that. Just reading some reports saying that they are just excited to be in the final and things like that. This makes me think that maybe they think, yeah, we did it. We made it to the final, but that's a success in itself. And if they're going to be 100%, I'm not saying they're going to not want to win, but as 100% focused as they maybe were in that semi-final. Do you see it that way, or am I just misreading it?
No, 100%. I think you've hit the nail on the head there, and I have been a bit concerned about that. Just seeing, just on social media, just the uproar from the Lions players on the organisation as a whole, and yeah, I think they need to go into this game looking at it as a normal game rather than it is their biggest game in franchise history, obviously. But they just need to just tone it down a bit and just concentrate. And it's just one more game left in the season to perform. Yeah,
it's going to be key to them to go on to want to win it. Like say any other match of the season, it's going to be pretty important for them. But one other thing, the travel. Now, we've seen it with the Chiefs, we've seen it with the Highlanders, we've seen it all season long, really, with all the teams. What influence is that going to have for you?
It's massive, and I think it's not easy to underestimate the travel between South Africa and New Zealand. It's a pretty big difference in distance and in time zones. It's just you've seen it in the finals already. Just the effect that travel has had on teams. You saw it with the Chiefs last week against the Hurricanes. The Chiefs just looked tired, and you could see that their normal star players like Cruden, McKenzie, and even Lowe as well. You could also look tight on the wing, and you could just definitely see the effect that travel had on the Chiefs.
So that's the visitors. The Lions coming to Wellington, Westpac Stadium, of course, to play this match. The Hurricanes. I don't know how much you know about the Hurricanes, but one big difference between these two sides that I could see maybe becoming a bit of a factor when this match wears on, and if things are really tight, which, it's a final, they should be and they could be, experience. Now, the Hurricanes, they've been there before. A few times, in fact. They played that horrible, foggy grand final in Christchurch many years ago, if anyone's old enough to remember that like me. But, of course, last year, the most recent one, losing to the Highlanders, tight match, experience is going to be massive. Do you feel that the Hurricanes will edge that there? Where can the Lions make up that difference between the experience of the two sides?
It's definitely going to be a tough task for the Lions. You can obviously this season it's clear to see that the Hurricanes have been motivated from that devastating loss in the final last year. Everyone expected them to take out the title, especially at Westpac Stadium, but they did get upset by the Highlanders, who were a good team. All credit to the Highlanders, but it's definitely motivating them this season to get to another final and to host a final. And you're definitely right. The Hurricanes are a lot more experienced than the Lions, and the Lions are just going to have to just adapt. If it's a wet game, like it most likely is, I think the Hurricanes will definitely have the advantage, and the Lions can't be too naive. They have to go in there with an open mind and adapt to whatever game that the Hurricanes are playing. They can't try to really force anything against this really experienced unit.
You spoke about there briefly about the weather. Now, the forecasters for crap, like the North Islanders getting pretty hammered at the moment. The whole of New Zealand, to be honest, is getting pretty hammered. Even down here where I am, it's bloody snowing outside at the moment, and that's just ridiculous. It's just rubbish. I hate snow, especially when you have to go and drive. It's just stupid. But the weather. If it's crap, if it's rainy, if it's cold, who's going to advantage that? Do you think the Hurricanes are going to be more adept to that sort of weather?
100%. I think evidence for that it would be against the Sharks 2 weeks ago. Obviously, horrible conditions, swirling wind throughout the stadium, just pouring down the whole game, and the Hurricanes just adapted. They kept the pressure on the Sharks in the first half, and then in the second half found a way to play their running brand of rugby again. But when you've got a number 10 like Beauden Barrett, who's a great tactical kicker, but is also a great runner of the ball, they're definitely, in any conditions, they'll be a formidable team. And Barrett's cross-field kicks, especially against the Sharks, just devastated them. Just Barrett's kicking in general, just not only territory kicking, but just little chips in behind the defence, and kicks cross-field to Jason Woodward. And I think that we're going to see a lot of that this weekend if it's raining.
Yeah, they definitely did against the Sharks. So that match, what went wrong with the Sharks there? They're your team. Where the Sharks go horribly wrong? They're a very good defensive side. I've thought throughout the season I've watched them. They're very good defensively, and they feed off scraps of other sides. What went wrong with the Sharks in that game? They're just completely blown away again.
I think the Sharks are a good defensive team, but I think that's about where it stopped this season. We've had, at the beginning of the season, we were a pretty decent team in attacking, but we didn't start off the competition with very strong sides. But I think it just went wrong. We just had no spark in defence, and obviously we were missing that experience of Pat Lambie with Garth April stepping in, and he missed the first couple of kicks, and he was just rattled the rest of the game. And it just showed what the Sharks' attitude was when they were, I don't even know how many points behind in the last 10 minutes. They were still kicking upfield instead of running the ball and trying to make their supporters somewhat entertained. But that game was just a big frustration.
It's a bit off topic there, but I had to ask. I kind of forgot about that game. It was quarterfinals, and it was an amazing game. But you look at that, and speaking of that quarterfinal and the semi-final the Hurricanes played, they haven't actually conceded a try in any of their finals games so far. Where do the Lions find the defence? Where do they attack, do you think, this Hurricane side? Do you see a weakness in it at all?
I think having good defense is definitely a good attribute to have when you're playing the Lions, who are a great defensive team. And a weakness in the team. I think defensively, I don't know what your opinion is, but I think Corey Jane's a bit lackluster at defense. I think Rod Combrick running at Corey Jane, I think Combrick will probably win that matchup. But as opposed to, you mean defensive weaknesses or
just any weaknesses? Where do the Lions attack? Where do they find the gaps? Where do they gain an advantage, do you think, over the team?
I think the obvious advantages in the centres, obviously having Janssen van Rensburg and Mapu in as your centres, and the 12-13 channel is the hardest to defend in the whole field, and I think that's definitely. I think the Hurricanes have been missing the Nonu-Smith combination this year. I think that's going to be where the Lions keep hammering the whole game.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned Corey Jane, because I'm not his biggest fan, especially recently. I don't think he's the player he was when he was in his prime. I think he was really one of the best, one of the best kind of old school, small Jeff Wilson kind of wingers back in the day. But he's still good. But you're probably right. It probably is an area that the Lions can attack from and exploit him, especially Combrick is an outstanding winger. I think Skozan would be marking Jane, wouldn't he? 11 would be 14 if they're the right way around. But despite that, I think still Skozan will smoke him when it comes to pace as well. But the battle up front, two players that I'll mention here to you as well. Dane Cole's injury, bracketed to start the match. How big do you think that's going to be? And Victor Vito, the other one, playing his 100th match in this final match as well for the Hurricanes, as well as the overall battle of the forwards, where the game's obviously going to be won and lost, as they always are. All starts up front. What are the factors in there with those guys and the whole pack do you think is going to decide the match here?
I mean, if Dane Coles doesn't play, I think it's a massive blow for the Hurricanes. Obviously, rib injuries aren't was it rib cartilage, I think, was his injury against
something
the
like that, saying in the ribs.
Yeah. And it was a pretty decent injury in that, and he wanted to play last week, obviously, but the team doctor ruled him out of that, and as you said, he's bracketed this week. I think if he doesn't play, it will be a massive loss for them. In my opinion, he's the best hooker in the world right now. He just brings that spark to the forwards, attacking line that no other hooker really can bring. And obviously, he's their skipper, and he can't really. Pienaar did a decent job as captain last week for the Hurricanes, and he did in Cole's absence at the beginning of the season. But he's a good captain, and he's an inspirational skipper, and it'll be a big loss for them if Coles doesn't play.
Yeah, I think even though he didn't play in the semi-finals well, I think Riccatelli played pretty well coming up. Like where was he last year? Like he didn't even exist. He's come along quite nicely. I think they're quite gifted to have those two guys. But Dane Coles, he's just X-Factor kind of player, and he could make a difference in a game like that. He could score or stop, or he's so fast, and to have a forward who can pace like a back is it's just priceless. And that's where like Victor Vito comes in as well. Seven's expert. He's got the speed. He could be another factor playing his last match. It could be decided by one little play. It's a grand final. It all comes down to the little millimeters and centimeters of the game. But ultimately, you have to put your name on the line. Who are you going with? What's your score?
I think the last time I did a video, I predicted this final, and I do predict. It's obviously the easiest pick considering these two teams, but I think I did predict the Lions 2 weeks ago, and I think I'll still stick with the Lions, even though despite the travel, I just think they're that one team that can upset the Hurricanes. Best two teams in the final, can go either way. I would say the Lions would have enough. If they get over their travel, if they adjust well to the conditions, I think they can definitely get one over the Canes.
Gonna put a number on it? Score?
It's going to be close. I think 24-21, I would say. Decently high scoring, weather permit. They're being able to score that many points. Couple of tries from each team, and I think it's going to come down to at least only 3 points if the Lions win.
That brings up another thing, goal kicking. I give the Lions a bit of an edge here. Like Bowden Barrett, kicking wise, is in hand, I should say, is brilliant. I think he's easily the best ball running fly half around at the moment in form. But goal kicking, I think this is where the Lions have got the edge. Do you think that's something that they could get that difference? You're saying it's only a 3-4 point game. Is the goal kicking where they could win it?
I think definitely. Yankees has definitely proved me wrong this season. He before last season, I didn't regard him. I didn't rate him as a goal kicker at all. I thought he was one of the most inconsistent guys to be kicking, but he's definitely had a good season from the kicking team, and obviously when it's out of Yankees' range, Cornbrink has just stepped out of nowhere, and it's slotting 50-meter penalties both for Springboks and the Lions, and which blew my mind when I first saw him slot over a kick. I don't know what that man can't do, but the Bowden Barrett's kicking has been decent, but he's not up there as one of the best goal kickers, obviously. But saying that, the Chiefs had the goal kick advantage over the Canes last week. It didn't not too much because they couldn't break that Canes defense.
Yep, that's a good point. That's a good point actually over there. Yeah, so the Chiefs couldn't do it. So goal kicking may or may not decide it. Who knows? My pick, I'm going to go with the Hurricanes, primarily just due to travel. I think just that little, even if it's only 5% or 10% that they might lose, the Hurricanes, they haven't left home. They've been in Wellington all finals. They've just had such an easy run. Everyone's been flying all around the globe. But no, the Hurricanes have stayed put. I think that will be my difference ultimately in the end. I do think it'll be more. I think the Hurricanes might get some points on the board and win it by 12 or 14. in the end, but I think it's going to be pretty close for the most part. Like say the Lions start off very strongly. That's their like strength of their game is starting off so strongly, but ultimately in the end, I think the Hurricanes with their home crowd, they'll blow it home in the end, I think, and they'll win their first ever title. But I think it's the two best teams, no question about it, and one's going to win their first ever title, and it should be, hopefully, weather permitting, a great little game as well. Anything else you want to add about the match?
I think whoever wins, it'll be a satisfying end to the season. Two best teams in the finals, both have never won a title before, and it's just, let's just hope for a crack of a game and a close game at that, and let's hope for some dry weather by some miracle. And whoever wins definitely deserves the title.
Yeah. Well, that wraps us up here for this little look at the grand final of Super Rugby for 2016. It's been awesome bringing you guys all my reviews and previews, my predictions and all that sort of jazz over the whole season. I hope you've all enjoyed it as well throughout the year. And I thank my guests more than ever for their appearances. If you guys like what you're hearing and what you're seeing from these guys that I've had on the channel over the last few weeks as well, let me know in the comments if you want to see more of them. Hit that thumbs up as well if you like these guys and want to see some more of them on the channel and about. Thank you very much, Brent, for joining me once again.
Yeah, thanks very much, man. Anytime I'll come in and I'll come onto your channel and talk some rugby.
talk some crap on rugby as well. And of course, thanks to the Cannon who's joined me in the past as well. Hopefully we'll see some more of him in future as well. But for today, that's us wrapped up and done and dusted. Hope you all enjoy the grand final. Let me know your predictions in the comments below, who you think's going to win, who you agree with out of the two of us. We've gone a bit differently this time as well. But until next time, thanks for watching and take care.